Yeah, hey buddy, how's it going? Remember the other day when I sold you my 2080 Ti at 8:59 a.m. for 450 bucks? Well, I had a little bit of a snag. I think I'm gonna have to ask you to sell it back to me. I'll probably have to pay you 600 or 700 bucks, but I think I'm gonna need my 2080 Ti back. Had a little bit of problem at 9 a.m. Things definitely didn't go quite like I thought they would. So maybe the 2080 Ti is not as bad as we thought initially. Hey guys, Tiago with Classical Technology here. Thank you for joining me for another video. Remember to subscribe, makes me happy, helps us grow the channel. Smash that like button, leave a comment below. What do you think about the 2080 Ti? So recently, the 2080 Ti has been much maligned and it's been basically thrown to the side. It used to be pretty much everybody's favorite GPU for the high end. I mean, to have a 2080 Ti was really spectacular. For the entire time that it was out, it was pretty much the top dog at gaming. And up to a few weeks ago, before the 30 series were announced, people still loved them. As soon as the 30 series were announced and they said a 3070 is faster and cheaper than the 2080 Ti, all of a sudden the 2080 Ti, it just seemed to go right down the toilet. People were selling them for 500 bucks, 600 bucks. Everybody was trying to get rid of them, waiting for the 30 series to come out, which, okay, everybody wants the new thing. The 3080 did look really good. And then the reviews dropped. It confirmed that the 3080 was pretty amazing. And then we had launch day. As you guys are well aware by now, launch day disaster. Nobody got their hands on a 3080, and who knows when we're going to be able to get a 3080 at all. 3090, 3070, this launch could repeat itself, and then we're pretty much stuck with either overpriced 30 series that we have to buy on eBay or with current generation 20 series GPUs. So let's talk about maybe 5 reasons why the 2080 Ti really isn't that bad. Reason number 1 is performance. Of course, the 3070 is going to be faster and cheaper than the brand new 2080 Ti. Of course, the 3080 is also going to be faster than the 2080 Ti, but we can't get our hands on them. So as far as I'm concerned, the 3080 has zero performance, while a 2080 Ti has 2080 Ti level performance. And of course, nobody's going to go out and buy a $1,200 2080 Ti at this point. So you can't say it's a $1,200 card versus a $700 3080. And I don't think now, especially that the 3080 is pretty much non-existent, I don't think you're going to be able to find too many 2080 Ti's for like 450 or 500 bucks. They may start creeping up to $600-700. But in my opinion, if you don't have a GPU and you need one, and we don't know how the 3070 launch is going to be, or even the 3090, getting a 2080 Ti for even what I would say is reasonable, $600 to $700, is not really that bad of a deal. I mean, it's not a terrible GPU. We now know what the benchmarks are. In general, it seems to be about 30% slower than a 3080, which it's really not that bad. Which, okay, that's a nice bump in performance. If the 3080 were available and $699 Founders Edition, nobody's going to get that. So most likely, third party, you're going to be paying $750 plus for a 3080 when they start coming in stock. As we know, that Founders Edition seems to be very, very scarce. Who knows when that's going to come back in stock. So if you can get yourself a 2080 Ti for a good enough price, I think that 30% performance difference isn't that big of a deal, especially if you can get a 2080 Ti for 30% less than maybe a $750 3080. That's going to put your price to performance roughly around in the same ballpark. Another reason why the 2080 Ti really isn't that bad, a lot of us already have it, so the acquisition cost is zero at this point. You've already paid its price. You've definitely probably already played a lot of games with it. So to sell it and then to buy a 3080, there's a little bit of a negative loss that goes on there as well. So I always thought that sometimes when you want to get something new and you have a previous version that's almost as good, the cheapest, smartest way is just to keep the one you have if it's doing okay for you. I'm sure for most people, a 2080 Ti is still playing the games that they want to play. Unless you're trying to push really crazy refresh rates at 4K, it's really not a GPU that you would say is low end or struggling. So I think in most games, it's going to be able to do pretty well. Even some of these high end games like Flight Simulator 2020, the 3080 does give you an improvement, but it's not like a night and day improvement. It's not like you go from 40 FPS to like 90 or something like that. It's generally just a little bit of a gradual upgrade. So with that, I think considering the fact a lot of people already have the 2080 Ti, not to mention you can buy one for considerably cheaper than when it was new, I really don't think it's that bad of a value proposition. The third reason why the 2080 Ti really isn't that bad, at least you don't have to buy a 30 series and stress yourself over all the shenanigans going on. If you don't want to support this current launch because you were disappointed by the initial launch day and everything being instantly sold out, I would say that's a good reason to hold on to your 20 series GPU, just because if you do decide to get a 30 series GPU, you're going to go through considerable headache trying to find one, try to find the right one. So holding on to your current 2080 Ti or even getting one for fairly cheap on the used market, not such a bad deal. You're going to avoid a lot of these hassles, a lot of standing in line at midnight at Micro Center trying to get a 30 series GPU, trying to overpay for it on eBay, or trying to order it on sites like Newegg, only to get your order canceled and voided because it's out of stock. So if you choose to get a 30 series GPU going forward, so be prepared for a lot of headaches and even trying to get the card, and especially trying to get the card that you want. 2080 Ti definitely is going to be a lot smoother sailing just because they've been out on the market now for a considerable amount of time. The fourth reason why the 2080 Ti is still really good: do you really need a new GPU? I mean, yeah, it's going to give you a little bit better performance. Some of them look kind of cool, but if you stop and think, if you have something like a 2080 Ti, is there really a reason, performance aside, that you really need a new GPU? Is getting a couple frames per second less really making your gaming experience absolutely terrible? So having said that, I think sometimes we always want the newest and greatest things, and it makes the thing that we have now seem absolutely obsolete, pointless, old. But that's really not the case. A lot of times that this happens, maybe I'll go around and take a look at what I have in a different perspective. Take a look at that 2080 Ti. Maybe try to overclock it, or maybe, try to water cool it if it was air cooled. Try to breathe some new life into your 2080 Ti. It's going to be considerably cheaper than trying to get a 3080. A lot easier because those aren't even available, as we know by now. And it's also possibly going to be a whole lot of fun. Imagine you could learn how to overclock. You could learn how to water cool your GPU, getting better temperatures, better performance. So there's definitely a pretty deep enthusiast world out there that you can still really push your 2080 Ti, have a lot of fun with it, get to really know your GPU. And for me, sometimes that's a lot more fun than having to wait in line for 12 hours to get the newest and latest GPU. And then the last reason why the 2080 Ti most likely is still relevant: you're not going to get a 3080. There's none out there. Maybe 3 people got them. So we have to face reality. You're not going to get a 3090, probably not a 3070. We have to stick with the 2080 Ti and the 20 series GPU just because, all right, maybe a couple people are going to get lucky and get them, but it's going to be, I think, quite a while before you're even able to get a 3080. Let's be realistic here. We're not comparing the 2080 Ti against the 3080 because, price to performance, or one smells better than the other. We can't get a 3080. You know that you and everybody else that you know would chuck your 2080 Ti out the window, sell it for $500 if you could get a 3080. I know I would. I'd get rid of that right away. But the reality here is we're not getting a 3080. A few of you might, but most of us are not going to be able to get our hands on a 3080 just because, if this launches any indication, I'm not too confident on the next upcoming weeks. We may eventually be able to get a 3080. It's going to be probably later in the year. Maybe October, maybe a little bit in October if you're lucky, here or there in November, December, but definitely now in September, we're not going to get a 3080. So you have to enjoy your 2080 Ti if you're lucky enough to have a 2080 Ti. That's another point as well. We're talking about the 2080 Ti like everybody has it, and it's an absolutely disposable GPU. It's last generation's high-end GPU. So there are far fewer people that were lucky enough to even have a 2080 Ti. So think about all the 2060 owners, 1660 Ti owners. Those are going to be a lot more people than people that had a 2080 Ti. As far as I'm concerned, if you have a 2080 Ti, enjoy it. You have no reason to complain. Yeah, the 3080 is a little bit better, 25%, 30%. It definitely is. But if you have a 2080 Ti, just enjoy it. Now, if you're coming from a much lower end GPU and this was the first time that you were going to upgrade to something like a 3080, then yeah, I feel bad for you. You were disappointed. You have a right to be disappointed. You would get much bigger of a performance boost if you're coming from like a 2060 or a 1660 Ti, or maybe even like a 1050. But if you have a 2080 Ti, just enjoy it. It's a little bit of a boost to 3080. And eventually, I guarantee it, if you want a 3080, it's not going to be now, but eventually you're going to be able to get one. And then you're going to forget that you ever had to deal with your slow, old, overpriced 2080 Ti. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.